Camera on. And we are live, webinar is live, and we are live on Facebook.
Thank you, Dr. Sullivan. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the April 27th, 2022 meeting of the Cohasset School Committee. Would all school committee members that are present please indicate so? However, I will state at the outset that Mrs. Caleri will not be present tonight. Mr. Dial will be a few minutes late. So we will start with Mr. Kearney.
Present.
Mrs. St. Ange.
Present.
And I am present. Craig McClellan. That makes for a quorum of 3 members, and we will call the meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. The meeting, as always, is being broadcast on Cohasset 143 TV and streamed live on Facebook. We are in person now, but conducting hybrid model meetings, which means that even if you're not here in person, you can still participate in the meeting through the use of the Q&A feature on Zoom. And you can access Zoom using the link on the agenda, which is found on the Cohasset School Committee website. We'll move right into the first agenda item, which is the public comment section of our meeting. Public comment is, of course, I say for every public comment, it's reserved for community members to raise discussion points or topics of interest that are not related to something that is already on the agenda. So if you have a comment or a question or a suggestion, any sort of input related to an item that is on the agenda, then we just ask that you please wait until we arrive at that point in the agenda to raise that concern. Otherwise, please raise your concern at this time. And again, if you are attending virtually, you can utilize the Q&A feature on Zoom to do so. Give everyone a few minutes to do that, or a few seconds to do that. And hopefully Dr. Scollins may be able to monitor it, because Mrs. Leary usually is our Q&A monitor, but she's not here.
Got it.
Seeing any questions, Dr. Scollins?
We don't really want to change it, so.
Okay.
He may be related to someone's.
Okay. All right, but there are attendees, so it's clear that it's online. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll move into the second. Were you going to say something, Dr. Scollins?
No, it's just more people watching on Facebook.
Right, okay. So we'll move into the second agenda item, which is the superintendent's report, as always, and we will at this time turn the meeting over to our superintendent of schools, Dr. Patrick Sullivan. Dr. Sullivan.
Thank you, Chairman McClellan, and welcome back, everyone, from what hopefully was a nice, long, restful break, getting ready for what is always an interesting push from the end of April break through to the end of the year, and of course, for most of us this year, not Jake, because most of us going through to June 30th, so it's a long haul. But it's also a very exciting time. It's a time when a lot of activities are being planned for the end of the year. I just met with Principal Sullivan, and the amount of activities that are being planned at Deer Hill are very exciting, enriching from an academic perspective, wonderful from a social perspective, a lot of outdoor activities. Same is true with Osgood, and of course, the middle and high school as well. We have Principal Scott here, who will be doing a spotlight with one of our amazing students. But I know he's in full graduation mode, along with other activities that are happening. But our graduation is June 4th, and it's at the Classic Music Circus, and it is at 1 o'clock. So we're really excited about that, to honor our seniors as we do every year. Sports are in full swing. We're about midway through the season, going very well. Our teams are achieving. I'll have maybe a more in-depth update next time regarding kind of where they stand as they start looking into playoffs and tournaments and state competitions. And we received, and it was also Earth Day over the week. I know a lot of high school and middle school, elementary students participated in that. So it was great to see that happening. And it was nice. It's nice to receive some accolades once in a while. It's always nice to receive accolades, but it's more recently there's a ranking in what's called the U.S. News and National Report. It's called U.S. News National Report of High Schools, and they rank all the high schools in the United States. It's an interesting rating mechanism because it does look at free and reduced and some elements of poverty compared to achievement. And it looks at size of schools and other demographics. So it's an interesting, but yet very popular model that ranks high schools across the country. And I'm proud to say that this year, Cohasset High School scored very well on this ranking. Actually, I can't remember us scoring higher than where we are this year. We're 31 in Massachusetts, 28 in the Boston metro area, first in the South Shore, which I think is incredible, and then 783rd in the nation. So it's really very, very powerful data. It shows how well we're doing. We're number one in the state in graduation rate and tied for number one in the nation in graduation rate, which I think was really great option. So just one of those accolades that is very well deserved. And I just want to be clear that if we go a little lower in the ranking, it doesn't mean we don't still have an awesome high school, but it is nice to get that recognition when it comes along. And some of you may have seen also a really nice story on spots to live south of Boston in the Globe this past week. And I just copied a part of this just to read it to you. And I just thought it was a nice thought about Cohasset from one of our residents here who is very well known, does a lot with sports and the kids in the community, Mr. Dan Leahy. You may have seen him. He's probably taken more photos of students in Cohasset in action in the sporting events than anyone probably ever. He's really involved and great person. So I'll just read it because I think it's great. It says, another pretty coastal town, this one on the bay side and on the commuter rail, saw the fastest price growth of any town south of Boston. Cohasset might be, and this is in quotes, Cohasset might be a nice town if it were 40 miles inland, says 77-year-old Dan Leahy, a photographer for the Cohasset Anchor, who has lived there since 1982. But the oceanside setting takes it to another level, he says. Anytime you're having a bad day or a down moment, you go down to the harbor and just sit there for 15 minutes and inhale that marvelous salt air and look out at that magnificent scenery, Leahy says. Families with kids flock to Sandy Beach in the summer, while Leahy's more likely to stroll quieter Black Rock Beach or photograph wildlife or lobster boats in the working harbor. Whether it's a foggy day, a cold day, a snowy day, it just presses all my buttons. Beyond the natural beauty, Leahy, who raised 6 children in Cohasset, says the schools are phenomenal. From academics to athletics to extracurricular activities, they do everything. The teachers are all really involved, he says, and as is the rest of the town. You go to any school play or debate or any school event, the whole community joins in. So I thought that was really nice testimony from a great citizen of Cohasset. I think he hits it on the head. So really looking forward to this stretch and all that it offers, and we're excited for it. I know Dr. Scollins has a few things to update on regarding some of our summer opportunities.
I do. So on Monday, I sent out an email to families for the summer learning program. And this is our 3rd year actually that we're going to run this. It's a little bit different this year, one, because the summer is shorter. You don't get up till the end of June. But we are going to run a 2-week program, and it is going to be August 1st through August 11th. If you are entering 1st grade through 5th grade, it will be a 2.5-hour program in the mornings. If you are 6th grade through 12th grade, it will be tutoring. And so we'll offer a 50-minute block for tutoring for students in math and ELA. So that application went out. It's going to close on May 6th, so we can get organized. And then there'll also be information for incoming kindergartners. Mrs. Farrell had this wonderful idea about doing a jumpstart kindergarten program. So we will do that the 2nd week of August, so August 8th through the 11th, and we will have done kind of 2 sessions in the morning, and kindergartners can come in, see the school, practice, walking around. They can take a little, come on the bus, see what it looks like, just kind of all those things that sometimes cause angst for students and parents alike. I still remember being a parent of a kindergartner. So anyway, I think it'll be really nice. So that application's there. It'll be in the newsletter also, and also be in the school newsletters. So the application is easy to fill in, just a Google Doc. So that's really kind of a big thing we have going on. So we're excited about it. Glad we can do it.
Certainly, and that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you. I want to thank Dr. Scollins for all her efforts in that, and the teachers that are signing up to
Yeah, we
teach
have
it.
teachers that are doing it. And Mrs. Farrell has been, actually, she was the program administrator for
Mrs.
the
Farrell,
20 and
of course.
21. And so she applied again. And so we talked today, so she's going to be the administrator for it again this summer. So we're excited to do it. It's just a really nice way to keep, help students that may, just need a little extra support. And it's free of charge. It is free of charge.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, it's tied to,
Keep it.
it is, yep, and it's tied to a grant. So students will be given priority for those students who are, on IEP, the 504s, have been receiving support through the school or email support. So there is a bit of a criteria because it is, it is part of it. Okay.
Great. Well, thank you, Dr. Scollins.
Just want to note, welcome to Ms. Dial's here at 6:10 p.m.
Thank
It
you.
was earlier than anticipated. for you.
Was.
Yes. And then if I may turn it over to Jake Squattrito, who is one of our school committee liaisons. Jake is probably getting more and more excited for the end of the year and college next year. So yeah, I'll let Jake update on anything he'd like to update from a student's perspective. So Jake, take it away.
So I guess the biggest thing, which I think has happened since like the last meeting, is like, I would say like 95% of people know where they're going to college by now, which is like really exciting. Otherwise they have like until like Sunday, I think. So, the clock's ticking, but that's been exciting, and just sort of getting to that position in the process has been really nice. And then like April break, like I know the Euro trip was really exciting for a lot of people. I feel like a lot of people I knew went and enjoyed it. Had some trouble like getting out there, but they made it and they really liked it, which was awesome. And looking forward to like AP exams start next week, which is crazy. I don't know where all the time went, but it's happening. So that's exciting. And I think this year, like a lot of people feel like really prepared and feel good about it. So, it's been nice kind of having like a normal school year for the most part. And we're just kind of focused on learning, focused on doing what we have to. And, we've had good pacing and we're kind of where we need to be right now, which is good.
I would agree. I think, Principal Scott probably feels this too. It's a much better situation right now than it was last year with the pacing. We feel better about where we are with our students from all perspectives. Doesn't mean we don't still have work to do, but I really felt that the spring and for us sort of early summer was going to be productive and really more like it has been in the past. And I think that's going to do a lot to springboard into next year, which we hope is really back on track completely. And I think the students moving off to school next year will have more of a typical college experience, if that there is such a thing, as than previous years, the last couple of years. So excited for that. Any questions for Jake?
Let's see. Mr. Dial, you're first in the alphabet tonight because Mrs. Clary isn't here.
I know, I normally have a buffer,
No
which is,
pressure.
I'm going to start with no questions. Thank you.
Mr. Kearney.
Yes, hi Jake. First of all, thank you, and we're gonna miss you. This is your last
Yeah, I
year.
think so.
Is this his last meeting?
This will be Jake's last meeting. I think.
Yeah.
Is this your last meeting?
So we just want to recognize you and we wish you all the luck in the world. I concur what you're saying about like just having a normal year this year. Going forward, what would you say to your future classmates, the future of this school, seeing what you see? What would you say that you saw this year us kind of expand on? Student government, what would you think that we could expand on that you kind of question?
No, I get it. It's
Yeah.
a big question.
Yeah.
I don't know, like kind of appreciating every day, like obviously something we learned from the pandemic, like how much everything can change and just sort of be like thrown away and you have an entirely different situation. Like I think that's something everybody's learned, but I think especially with the students, like really appreciating, what kind of events like we have, what kind of opportunities we can have, things we can do every day. I think that's something we've learned, and as basic as it is, just like appreciating what kind of things you can do in school besides going in, sitting a certain distance from people, things like that.
I think it's like a lot too, like learning how to adapt.
Yeah.
That's something you're probably gonna have to learn in college, right? You can have new friends, kind of big man on the campus, now you're
Yeah.
a little fish in a big sea. So I saw that, we had a chance to go to Grand Canyon University and check it out. So I could just see, yeah, we're not there yet, but I could see the opportunities and it's exciting and good luck to you.
Yeah, and something on that, like kind of like organization. I feel like, again, another thing sort of because of COVID, but I feel like definitely that's something that like the school is focused on a lot more. And it's like, you do your assignments and it's like on your own time, you know, you plan out your week and you're responsible for that and you can be more efficient or you can fall behind. Like, I feel like that's something that, you know, has kind of been pushed more, which has been really good because that's something you're gonna need in college and for anything else really, so.
Thank you, Mr. Kearney. Mrs. St. Ange.
No questions. Thank you for all the updates and keeping us in the loop and, you know, helping us to understand the pulse of the student body. So I just hope you have an awesome end of senior year and summer and fall in London, and I just have to follow like all of it. It's like so fun.
Follow
I
me on
would mention-
Facebook or something.
Yeah.
Jake, you haven't mentioned where you're going because
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to Northeastern in the fall and I'm studying in London my first
It's
semester.
gonna be awesome.
great, congratulations.
Okay, well, so Jake, thank you so much for participating in this, and this is, I think, your second year doing it, right?
Yeah.
You did, yeah.
So you had been to quite a few meetings, many of which were virtual, and you know, you made time, and it's not an easy thing as a student to make time for something like this, but we're really appreciative of it, and you know, I always felt like you brought like a really uplifting spirit to the meetings whenever you came, and it was nice to hear your candid input, but oftentimes there was like a really positive note on things that were going on, even in a difficult time. I think that speaks a lot about you as a person, and it will be no surprise to see that you will, I have no doubt, realize many great successes in your future. So thank you so much. I want to put you on the spot a little bit, like Mr. Kearney did. I was going to ask you a similar question, but in addition to the sort of weaknesses or where we might be able to expand or improve, I was wondering if you could just sort of reflect on your 4 years, or actually as your 12 years as a Cohasset student, not only 4 years as a high school student, but 13, I guess, if you include kindergarten. What was your favorite part about being a Cohasset student? A loaded question, but something maybe if you have, and if you feel comfortable sharing, if you feel prepared, don't feel pressured. But if you feel like it's too much to sort of come up with a good answer.
Presentations to school committee can be the answer.
That's part of it, that's part of it. But I think definitely like the teachers, I mean, I feel like there's so many teachers that like have just been so supportive and like really care about what they do here, and I feel like that's where like a lot of the magic sort of comes in, like especially this year, I feel like I have a lot of teachers who are just like really passionate about what they do, and they just sort of have a way of like making like how they think about things, like part of how you think about things, and they can influence you so easily, and you know, it just sort of comes that way. But no, there's just been like a lot of love, and especially with everything, you know, that's happened, I think definitely like the teachers have been a big part of that.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. Thank you, and the best of luck. Congratulations on your acceptance to Northeastern University.
And I think you can see from Jake, all of Jake's answers, how thoughtful and sincere he is, and that comes through in all of his actions too. So, you know, he's destined for great things. So, thank you, Jake. And I should mention before we, well, Jake can go. I just-
Thank you.
We did have two amazing trips over the holiday, the week. We had the Grand Canyon trip where 30 somewhat students from the middle and high school went. And that was great. Bryce Canyon, Zion, and really a wonderful trip. And then we had 40 something students go to, all high school students, correct?
Yeah.
Go to Europe. And that was also amazing, and not surprised, but our students behaved wonderfully and were really responsible and excellent on the trips, got the most out of it. Our staff continued to shine on those trips, and it's a wonderful experience for everyone.
Can I share an anecdote?
Absolutely.
When I walked back in on Monday, Lisa Tokars, who's the administrative assistant in the main office, had received the voicemail from the flight attendant on the airlines, who just wanted to say how well behaved the Cohasset students were. And
That's awesome.
Appreciate it.
That's
Right,
impressive.
that's a big deal.
That was the Europe trip?
That was the Europe.
That's great. And that would be a long time with them.
Yeah.
So you got that.
That's amazing.
fabulous.
That's really cool.
No
What
flight
airline?
attendant has ever called and complimented my behavior.
Was it American?
I think it was American.
Yeah.
They had all kinds of different flights. So they were-
Sure, of course.
Yeah, and there was a hard time getting out, so
Yeah.
kudos
It
to the
was.
teachers who work
Yeah.
that out, because I knew that there was, and personally, I was like, if I was them, I'd just forget about it.
Yeah.
Honestly, that was kind of my answer when I heard the whole drama of going there. I was like, that sounds like a lot of work.
It sure is.
A lot of people did a lot of extra legwork
so
to
I
get
wanted
them
to point
there.
that out. Yeah.
Good work from the staff and, you know, took a lot of flexibility and patience too on everybody's part, so. But it sounds like it was all in all a fabulous trip.
Yeah.
Good. That's so funny to hear. I think that was nice of her to do that.
It's first.
Yeah, that's great.
Like ever.
Yeah, perhaps the nation.
I know, yeah.
You do have good kids.
You should save that recording.
Yeah.
Yeah. Play it back to me someday. That's wonderful. Actually not surprising at all in our kids. It's wonderful. All right, so that I think concludes our updates.
Well, okay, so we move right into the spotlight on learning,
Wonderful.
maybe?
We'd love to. So,
Great.
as we've done for every school committee meeting, we've offered a spotlight, often from a student perspective, just showing you some of the great work that students do every day. We have so many wonderful, dynamic students who are able to explore things that they love and learn. And it's such a great, high school is such a great time because you're really learning about you're trying out new ideas and you're sort of learning where your strengths and weaknesses are, and you know, you're kind of honing in on what you might be your passion. And I think this student who's we're going to introduce in a minute has possibly found a passion that he will pursue going forward. And it's also nice that he did some film work on a book that I used to teach, Fahrenheit 451, which is a dystopic novel by Ray Bradbury that I know we teach and has relevance today for sure. So I'm going to let Principal Scott introduce Owen, our amazing student. And
So this is Owen Gertz. Owen is a ninth grade student, very intellectually driven, loves learning. We've met previously down in CSCR. He was doing some work down there last summer. And he's in Miss Norton's ninth grade English class there at Fahrenheit 451, as Dr. Sullivan said. And Owen was inspired enough by the book that outside of any assignment given, the projects had been finished. He spent 6 weeks developing a 45-minute feature film on Fahrenheit 451. He scripted it, he cast it, he developed the music, he did all of the graphic effects. And it was gifted to the classes the way Miss Norton put it to me. He came back and she said, he very humbly just said, I made this. And she was so blown away by it and the high level of thinking and character development and synthesization that goes into creating something like that is just, I think it's inspirational. I think it's exactly what we're trying to do, and we don't see enough of it. So I will let Owen take it from there.
you know, you might want to move up to the spot. And I love that he's self-taught. And
Yes.
we'll talk about that on what you'll see in a minute. Oh,
Okay, so I made and adapted the film. I made Fahrenheit 451, and I guess we'll show the trailer now.
sure. Someone.
Books are the enemy. The government didn't ban books because people wanted them. Government banned books because everybody hated them.
Well, what if a fireman took a book?
Well, if that happened, the fireman would be totally forgiven if he burned the book within 24 hours. If the fireman decided to keep the book, we would have to come and burn his house. All of the books.
That's just the trailer. There's a 40-minute video, a movie from that, so it shows you. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about what went into the making of it.
So I first had to start by I first read the book in class, and then I had to start making the film when we had got to like chapter 3 to
Yeah.
finish it when they finished the book. And so I read ahead and then started making the film. And basically I cast my family as all of the characters and then just kept going and made the film.
Can you tell folks a little bit about what, just in general, what the book is about, so they understand what the firemen do, because they do something a little different than what our firemen do.
So this book is set in the future, and it is about firemen who burn books because the government doesn't want them, because they promote knowledge, and that's not what the government wants. And this is about one fireman who decides to not obey by this, and he actually takes the book. So that's.
And 451 is the temperature at which books burn.
Yes.
Yes. So that's interesting. So, yeah, I mean, amazing. How did you create some of the fire? I'm assuming you
That's
didn't
my
burn
number
down
one
your house.
question.
How many houses burned down?
And was anybody else a little frightened about that? Because, like,
That's what I'm saying, I don't remember any houses burning down.
I know,
It's
like,
in another town.
they have a really,
I found it very disturbing. I've read the book. I love that book.
Yeah.
Even watching that.
I thought it was
it's
great.
extremely
It really captured
disturbing
it.
in the best way, like the way it should be disturbing.
That's right.
Okay.
So how did you do the video?
So it's kind of a process of there's two ways of creating fire digitally. You can either get fire that is shot on like a black screen that you can key out and then place in and then mask and then overlay with. Or you could go into simulations and do it in CGI, which is a lot more computer power. But I just looked for a while, and then I found some fire assets is what they're called. And I basically just took those and then composited them in, which is like a very difficult process of masking and then adding smoke and other things. So different layers.
Would it have been easier to actually burn?
Well, we
A lot more costly, but
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, that is the preferred method when you're doing it like in a Hollywood movie. That's why they set like houses so that they can be burned multiple times.
You know, who was the main fire, Montauk? Right?
Yeah, that was my dad.
It was your dad. That's great.
Very convincing.
Yeah.
He has a second career as an
Fan
actor.
favorite was your brother who's in middle school.
Yeah.
As the professor.
Whose voice was it?
That was mine, who was voicing over the trailer.
That's really good. That's great.
It was awesome.
Great job.
Questions for Owen?
Any questions?
no, I kind of did mine in real time.
Yes.
So,
Oh, just to piggyback on top of the fire question. So in order to learn how to do all of that, did you just like how did you learn to do that? Did you watch YouTube videos like I do to learn things? Or how did you learn
Kind
to
of.
all these film
So I've been
techniques?
making films for like 5 years now, and I've just been, it's basically a process of watching YouTube videos and then practicing techniques and then more practice. Basically.
Well, I'm so impressed. That was incredible.
I have to say that
You did a wonderful job. It is my favorite book. I try to get my kids to read it in second grade. And they're like, why would you want me to read this?
Literally.
It was one of my favorite books. And to see it, you know, I gotta say too, as much as good as the book was, there's never been a really good movie for the book.
Here it is.
Do you remember the old one with Julie Christie and it was like it was sort of similar.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and the idea that the government didn't want you to read and they wanted you to read off the screens and they had 24-hour banking, some of the stuff that we have now that he wrote in the 50s really inspired me, to be honest with you. It's probably the best book that I've ever read. It's for you to put it into perspective like that, for like just telling you really, and I don't know, how long was that, 30 seconds, 1 minute? It pretty much described what the book was and really how important the book is to read, because I think that the inside of that is you can almost tell people who don't read because they're really not educated on things. Today, I can tell people that can read and not read through this book because they're emulating what they saw on the screen versus what they saw on the paper. And you're starting to see more and more schools go away from textbooks. As a matter of fact, we just talked about Grand Canyon University, and my daughter loved the school. However, they don't put it on books. She wants that textbook. So kudos to her. And then they got to read the book, and they're like, "Dad, this is awesome."
Yeah.
So,
I was waiting for
kudos
a
to you,
mechanical
Dad.
hound. I didn't see a mechanical hound.
Yeah. That is a difficult one to do. Great job.
Awesome job.
Great job. Keep up the good work. We look to see you in the future of your endeavors and keep it up. That's great.
Oh, what about the book inspired you? Like in this particular book, I mean, obviously it inspired you a lot in order to do this. What about it really struck a chord with you?
So when I read the first chapter in class, I just envisioned it instantly as like a film. I saw the first shot of the film basically. I was like, this is a really interesting idea. I'm gonna do that. I filmed the first shot and then I was like, I'm just gonna continue. And so then eventually I made the entire film.
We hope to see more. Great job, Owen. Thank you so much.
So much for sharing that with
Thank
us.
you. Well, good luck in your future. I'm sure you'll be doing something great with these types of things later.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Principal Scott. But you get going too.
Have a great night.
Have a great night. All right, it's always great to see our students really exploring things to
Yeah.
thrive and find their interess and their passions.
Impressive work from a 14-year-old kid.
That's very impressive.
I got nightmares from
And
that.
I started watching I have to say, the full
You watched it in
feature
second
film
grade.
is 40-something minutes, and it's powerful. It's really well done. So, dramatic. All right, so I believe that is it, other than our talking about the Student Service Planning Forum.
Yeah, just sort of standing items. So I didn't know if there's any, questions moving forward to this, and also just another opportunity to tell everyone when it is, which I believe is May 16th.
18th, isn't it?
Maybe.
We gotta stop telling people what it is if we keep.
We always, oh, you're looking to come on the 17th, but you said the May
Yeah,
16th.
we'll find the average.
I just got the days of the week messed up. Yep.
Yeah.
So it's Wednesday, May 18th. But just sort of leaving it on there in case there were any sort of comments from anyone in the community about it, or if there were any comments discussed.
This room, is this the location? Here?
I think this is the best location we could have it in. I think it's a nice, warm environment. I would think this, we can set up the room any way we want it.
Oh, yeah, I'm just curious, just to.
Yeah,
be
I think
more
this is a-
consistent in our
we really haven't decided.
That's what we envisioned or discussed preliminarily, but
Yeah.
TBD still.
I would think it's either here or down in the, community room.
Oh, this is cozy.
I think this is
Yeah.
better, or.
So it's dungeon.
Your Colors on.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
a dystopian universe apparently.
Right, we could, right, yeah, we could play, Owen's film.
I do like the idea though, sometime when we get more mobility to go to each different school.
Well, I mean, that's really the plan.
Yeah, we
That was always my plan, to actually move school committee meetings.
Yeah.
Now that we have the, we're gonna have one of these in every one of our, in
Yeah.
one of in our major learning areas at each school. So we could absolutely do spotlights. Was always my vision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do a spotlight at, Deer Hill
Deer Hill, yeah.
and have the, the Deer Hill spotlight so the Deer Hill families can be there. We can do
I
that.
thought you were just gonna
Yeah.
wheel this down the sidewalk to.
Well, I could do that too, yeah.
That's
Just drag it behind the car.
It could happen.
That'd be safe.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Oh, my God. All right.
So that's it. So yeah, I think we talked about this.
I just want to have it on there, so as we're approaching it, if anyone had any questions to ask, we can ask them, but nothing in particular that I wanted to raise.
Yeah, okay, wonderful.
So that concludes Superintendent's report, Dr. Sullivan.
It sure did. Anything else, Dr. Stone? We're gonna move to Ms. Sullivan in a minute, so,
Sounds good.
okay.
Okay, any questions, for Dr. Sullivan?
What was that
Thank
again,
you
May
for the
18th?
report.
May 18th, Wednesday, May 18th.
Hey,
Yeah, I just-
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sullivan. Thank you, Dr. Jones. We will move right into what, yes,
just before, did we want to do anything with the SOI?
that's later.
We'll do that later.
So we'll move right into the finance section of the agenda, and I will turn the meeting to our Director of Finance and Operations, Ms. Susan Owen. Ms. Owen.
Thank you. Can you keep me sharing?
I sure can.
We have to Zoom out.
I will zoom out.
Although it's moved at this point.
Well, at home, they can see us in the room. At home, it's not.
Okay. Not a lot of, not a lot of big news, but, this is the FY 22 March finance report, that we do month to month. The school budget through the end of March, is about 73.56%, expended, and we're at 75% through the year, so we're on target as usual. We've been, have our normal encumbered supplies and materials, purchase orders for about 1.2 million. We have a remaining balance of approximately 5.7 million, which we will utilize to expend the salary account from now to the end of June, and then any other expensive supplies, materials that were unanticipated that have not been put on a purchase order. So that is progressing as planned. The next one has not changed. Sped tuitions, we've been watching very closely. We are still at a deficit of 590,000. So we're watching it very closely. There is no change from last month to this month. And then we get into the actual budgets by school. So you
So
can
before we
see,
go to budgets by school on the sped tuitions, does this shortfall, which is about 50%, if I'm doing the math, does that change the way we look at budgeting for next year?
it's totally separate years. Any, I should say excess, any remaining funds at the end of this school year will hopefully balance out. Because there are always accounts that aren't completely utilized, and then there are accounts that are running in the deficit. So it kind of balances. If it doesn't balance, then we have to make some transfers between revolving accounts, or we look at the sped stabilization if we have to.
Yeah, I was just curious if we expected, so I guess we're estimating about 1.6 million sped tuition this year, 600 over budget. Wondering if that should be an expectation for next year, the same amount, or if it's variable.
So we built into the budget an additional 216,000 for next year. So that includes the deficit plus the increase of 260. Then I guess the budgets by school, so you can see the Osgood, the Deer Hill, the middle and the high, they're all, in the 60% range. When we're at 75% of the school year, so they're progressing as planned. Or actually, we're a little ahead of the game with them. Talk about circuit breaker. Circuit breaker hasn't changed, it's reimbursement that we get on special ed tuitions. We are getting a fifth payment circuit breaker because Ms. Salonka filed an extraordinary relief. You have to have, I think it's 100% increase to your tuitions, which obviously we have. Unexpected. So they will issue a fifth payment if you file. There's a lot of paperwork involved. But that payment potentially could be up in the $200,000 range. So that would certainly help with sped deficits, either this year or next. Capital outlay, progressing, not completely expended. The Deer Hill and middle school, high school HVAC systems, we have to rebid. They're still digging through those specifications to see if there's areas where we can
decrease what the cost would be, or we would have to add the additional cost to our capital request for the year after to fund it. The Osgood sprinkler heads, they completed that work over this past break. Turf and track, we had a bid opening on April 4th. We're in the process of awarding the bid. So we're looking at getting that project up and running as soon as school's out, which will be great, long time coming. The wood shop collection is complete. Our door fobs are complete. We had reports today that most of them are up and running and working. It was just a matter of programming of.
The hardware is all there, it's just programming and we good.
Who had access. So that was great. Sign slab was still work in progress. Pilot technology as well. We have ordered the supplies. We're just waiting because everything is backlogged. So that's the capital for this year. Capital for next year, we had originally requested about a little over $1 million. Capital committee met. They had, I believe, about 1.9 million in capital to disperse and over 4 million in requests. So it was very lean this year. What you see now are the actual our requests. And if you go down below, our $1 million request was reduced down to about 484,000. You can see they kept the school bus lease, the middle school, high school paging zones, the furniture replacement at Deer Hill, they reduced from 60 to 35. They removed the replacement of the code base and the middle high school replacement of aging Chromebooks lease is stayed. Our safety automatic window shades for the gym at Osgood were removed. They agreed to retile all classrooms at Deer Hill. They did not put forward the replace all sanitizer at Osgood. Probably because there's still some leaks going on there, so it's on hold. There's no point in really replacing everything. It's going to continue to be wet and damaged. They put forward the field lights on the alumni field. They did not put forward the new scoreboard. They think we should wait until the track and the turf are in place. I know Athletic Director Rotundi is working on donations and boosters, trying to gather up the money to get that scoreboard done so we can have it done shortly after the turf and track were put in. They approved the locker mechanisms for the middle school. They approved the install of the AC heater split at the middle school health clinic because there's no air, there's no windows. They also, in the same area, put forward creating the hallway at the middle school to access the bathroom. They removed the 15 patches of passenger van for athletics. And then the asphalt roads and replacement of sidewalks. They did take it off of the school list, but they've put it on the DPW list, but I'm not sure if that was actually approved for this coming year or not. But they felt it was more of a DPW expenditure.
What was their reasoning behind not approving the window shades for the gym?
So I actually had a conversation with Chief Quigley about that. And actually it was sort of determined that it wasn't the best safety measure
Okay.
based on the fact that a lot of things would have to happen in order for those window shades to be utilized in an event of an emergency. Based on the factors involved. So we're looking at more of a protective film on those windows to stop situations.
Okay, so there are other measures being taken.
There are other measures. So it really was more of a safety decision.
Yeah.
Great idea, and it was put forth by the administration as an
Yeah.
idea. But when we went back and forth on it, because it did have some merit, but at the end of the day, it wasn't by our police measured to be something that we wanted to put in place. And I should say, as part of our the AI3 architect group that came in the
Yeah.
facilities, I did meet with the safety measure. A whole group came up and did a safety assessment.
Yeah.
And they had also mentioned that that wasn't necessarily something that they would recommend putting in place because of the multiple factors that would have to happen. And then the thought of someone having to go and press that during that situation wouldn't be efficient in terms of a crisis situation. So it was a really thought out, interesting discussion, multi-layered discussion. But that really wasn't a financial issue.
Okay.
It
Well,
was
that's,
more of a
that's good to know.
safety
That's more
decision.
meaningful than just that being crossed out.
Yep, yep.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
they had a bigger discussion on,
Sorry,
long term, we're gonna do something more safe.
better. Great.
Just looking.
The 15 passenger van for athletics, so we've had conversation with Michelle Larry at the town hall. And hopefully come up with a collaborative plan that will work for both. They are short, a wheelchair van, and our 70 is wheelchair van. So what Michelle and I have talked about, and she's working with the, senior center, where they have multiple vans, is we could share the vans. So their vans only seat 7 passengers, just like a 7D van. But there's no reason our athletic teams can't take several of those vans, because they're not, they're not required to have a 7D license to drive them. So like, for instance, the golf team could fit on a 15 passenger van, but the golf team could take 2 of the senior center vans to get to a competition or a practice. And then in turn, they could borrow our wheelchair van. So we're working with you on that.
That's smart.
But it was a great solution. And it saved, saved the idea of purchasing a van strictly for athletics. So that was, $45,000 savings. Again, our electric summary, we're a month behind, just based on billing. So here is our summary for month of February. You can see the cost. The cost this year through the end of February was $237,000. Last year it was 193. Kilowatts are, 1.387 versus 1.308. So the kilowatts aren't a huge difference. Then we get into the gas summary, works the same, month behind, sorry about that. And you can see here, the gas cost through the month of February was at about 83,789, and last year at this time we were at 78,563. So we used, which is interesting, we used 124 therms this year, and we used 151 last year. So my guess is the cost of therms has changed; it's gone down. So it's working more in our favor.
Wait, we used them.
We used fewer,
We use fewer.
but we
But
paid
cost
the
more.
same. Yes, the cost has gone up.
Yeah.
Which,
Yes.
Makes sense.
Sorry,
Makes sense.
I said
That's
that
how
backwards.
things work.
Reverse
Usually
that.
anything is going down in price right now.
Price went up.
Stamps sometimes.
Sorry.
never,
Stamps.
they come down. They're forever stamps. They never, they.
We're gonna move on, but it is.
Little bit. Yeah.
We'll
Grants.
discuss this later. That'll be an
So our
interesting
grants,
item.
you can see what our grant balances are here. Same number of grants. We have no new grants. Grants are, federal state funded. They have to be expended usually by June 30th. Some of them run to the end of August. So these balances will go away, other than probably the ESSER 3, which we have budgeted or potentially budgeted through the grant. Some positions in supplies materials for next year. It carries over a 2-year process.
What about the American Rescue Plan for Disabilities? Is that going to go away, or can we spend that somehow?
We have to spend all of this
Okay, when do we have to spend the 33,000 or the 40,000 combined
by June 30th.
by June? Do we have any plans to do that?
Yes.
Okay,
So,
especially disability. I mean, it's-
Mrs. Wonka has plans for that money.
Okay,
So she knows exactly how she's spending it.
okay, great, great. Okay.
No, we try not to spend any,
Yeah.
we try not to send any money back.
We need it. Yeah, that's great.
Then we get into our revolving accounts. And what the fund balances are, these accounts carry from year to year. Athletic, I know, is up. They have 265,000. We are still have not paid the coaches for the spring season. So that will come out of that amount, salaries. And he's also hasn't encumbered the money for the new fitness center equipment. So that should take a big chunk of that $265,000.
I wanted to talk to you about that. Do you think we could ask Steve and Tommy come into maybe a subcommittee meeting, and then we should probably discuss, like maybe possibly leasing equipment or
Sure,
looking into,
absolutely.
you know, because there's a good possibility that, you know, how are we gonna set this up? I'd like to see the plan anyway, so. Which I think is probably, first of all, it's not gender friendly in that area at all, especially for girls. It's more, I think we can all agree that.
We were discussing this today, actually.
Oh, good. Yeah, and I'm glad to see that. However, you know, that we do have other ways to, like, if we did lease that, and then every 5 years, you have at least a plan to keep it current.
I think it'd be a good, you're talking about this as an agenda item for the finance and facilities?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, just bring them in, and then we can decide on how we can improve that, because we wouldn't want to see all that money go away and then have it underfunded. We could just keep the equipment, because if you buy equipment and it just every year, you're gonna have to keep asking for it. This way you could, you know,
Absolutely.
spend 25,000 a year for the next 5 years, or whatever it is.
So at our next meeting, do you want me to have, Athletic Director Tony come?
Please,
Because I know we talked about having, the Director of Food Service.
either,
So if you would
I think,
want to prioritize-
Let Paul, let's talk offline about how we want to stagger the meetings. 'Cause we don't,
Okay.
we don't have them both come to the same meeting, we won't get as much done.
okay,
So,
yeah, okay. Well, what do you want to do first? Do you want to do the food services first? Do we already have that?
I haven't scheduled either one. You just.
I mean, we already had the few, we kind of know what they're doing right now, right? She's ordering new salad bar and stuff like that. And I think with the new equipment, I'd like to see that, because I know that we're trying to get that done by the summer, right?
That was done with some.
Yeah,
okay,
'cause-
so let's do that.
yeah, it's, to me, it's health and wellness. Just pick one.
Yep.
Just as equally as important.
Health or wellness.
Health,
You know,
it's easy, health and wellness.
well, pick one.
Or wellness.
So moving on, talking about athletics, the athletic revolving, he has been making improvements to the department, to supplies, materials, and his whole department. There's a lot going on this summer, including the fitness center, so that's a work in progress. Cafeteria, she is pretty much finalized, a whole new serving line in a snack room, which will also happen in the summer. So that will be something new. The TVs, as you can see, are up and running in all the cafeterias. She's got some trivia on there. She's
Right.
got what the menu is. It was pretty neat to see. But I went up and looked at it the other day to make sure, and I know they're running at the elementary schools too, so.
Awesome.
Good.
And they're really
Trivia there too?
I don't know.
I'm gonna
about-
ask my kids, I'll see if I can beat them up.
I don't know if it's, I would assume she's doing trivia at the elementary level as well. But no, it was very nice, the magnification and see.
And what about the vending
It's terrific.
machines?
The vending machine has been ordered, we ordered that,
Can you ask her for an update on that? And
sure.
also too, is with the meeting that we had with Medco last week, we do want to talk about the late bus.
Right, we do have late buses available, but they're not,
They had some concerns, so could we address that in that meeting?
we'd have to address that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, looking forward to that meeting.
So there's lots happening over the summer. The high school has the 2 new TV screens up at the front entrance and in the back loop. They're all hooked up. They're just waiting for software so they can remotely make changes and put stuff out there on those screens. But everything is wide and ready to go. In transportation, we have purchased the stop finder, which allows the parents to deal with their child's buses at all times. The equipment has arrived, just a matter of installing it and getting that up and running. So that's good news. Over the break, like I said, they finished all the door fobs. The custodians, teachers as well, and staff worked really hard to empty all of our trailers that we had. I think
Amazing work. really,
7 or
yeah.
8 trailers stored down in our bus lot. So they brought all the trailers back. They emptied all the trailers, brought back in all the furniture that we needed back. And they actually did some purging of anything that was damaged or unusable. We had dumpsters and it went. So we're no longer paying for those trailers.
Still have a few broken desks to get out,
We do.
a couple of courtyards.
They did make it to the courtyards. They
Yep.
can do that in some of the schools out. He did say that They went through 4 dumpsters, so
Yeah.
it was quite a bit of stuff.
And actually, in a lot of ways, a very, very nice purging of what we didn't need. I mean, not the way anybody wanted to do it, but, we were looking really, really great at our
What a
schools.
great opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they worked really hard. They did work really hard. The update on transportation, we had a bus driver go out on permanent leave, so we're down another driver. They're managing, they've developed their routes, so parents and families, please be patient.
Good news is,
I know we promised, we hope middle of March we'd have new drivers. The registry is not very expedient, but I believe May 2nd, May 3rd, and May 12th are the 3 dates with the registry for them to go for their bus driving test.
good.
So hopefully they're issued that day and we can get those 3 drivers up and running. And we're still interviewing and bringing in potential candidates to drive the buses. Just, we want to have hopefully at least 1 or 2 spare, so this doesn't happen again.
I want to join you in thanking the families for their patience. We know this is not unique to Cohasset, but certainly not a good situation for anybody. So we're making it work.
But also thank you to Dr. Sullivan, Ray Mashosha, and Zoe, who oftentimes at the last minute have to figure out these fairly complicated solutions to these situations, while suboptimal, still better than not having a bus. And, we received these messages from Dr. Sullivan, and I think kind of like that same reaction you have when the school nurse calls you, like, oh, God. But just like when the school nurse calls, someone's taking good care of your kid, and, in this case, the 3 of you and the other leadership members, or membership leadership team that are involved in that, are taking great care of us at the district and
Well,
doing the
thank
best you can with under tough circumstances. So thank
Give
you.
credit to Randy and to Sue, but thank you.
I have to say, you had mentioned that Ray has been so great for morale, and the other day, my girls and I were walking down the sidewalk, and he was driving a bus and waved at us as he turned, and my children don't ride the bus, we live on Sawyer Street. And they go, hey, it's Ray, I love that guy. I was like, we don't even drive the bus, and they know who Ray is, so I'm like, what a superstar.
He has done a great job, he really
Yeah.
has. He hits the ground running.
What a nice
And
addition.
it has been a really difficult,
Yes, man.
really difficult year.
Continues to.
The other thing that happened over the break was mulch in the playground.
Like elementary level, it's in my house now too, yeah.
All over your floor, you're welcome.
So the DPW facilities worked on that, and got that going. Other than that, we're just watching, we're, the tail end of the budget, so we're just watching those numbers and planning for our next year. Don't know if there's any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Owen. Are there any questions for Ms. Owen? Mr. Dial?
No.
Thank you, Mr. Dial. Mr.
Thank you.
Kieran?
Well, this is great, by the way, Susan. And I concur with you saying that about, you guys have been doing a great job as far as the school buses and being able to adjust, because that's tough. I also want to say that this is a really good presentation that we see every week. As far as, there's a couple things here. One of the things is that we're $500,000 short of what we wanted, so that's 50% of what we wanted. And I thought that was 50% of what we should have got to add on top of that, so we really got 25% sub. And I just want to point that out. And I also want to point out that, we're not going to get anything if no one's going to show up to any meetings when it comes to the budget. So if anybody's listening out there, this is your kid, this is your budget, this is what we do. Any kind of help that we could get from you financially, or even just bring this up again, your time is money. You could use some of your time to try to dive in to see what we could do. We need a scoreboard. We don't just need a football scoreboard. We need all the scoreboards. And I'm not going to approve it, and I'm not going to vote for it. You guys can, but I'm not going to vote for anything unless it includes all sports, not just football. Because we're looking at a football scoreboard. And softball doesn't have one. Baseball, I think, got one. Soccer doesn't, at the lower levels, have it. So I'm not going to vote for anything on that until we get everybody taken care of. And I say that with the track and field. There's $1 million there, and we don't have a math specialist. I just think our priorities are really kind of all over the place. And I think that we got to really talk as a community of what is important to us. Is it to fund our teachers to get a math specialist? Is that important? Or is it a scoreboard important? What's more important, track and field or math specialist? To me, it's math specialist. I don't care what the fields look like if we're not getting math. The other thing is I'm disappointed with is the Department of Public Works. As much as I like to hear them talk about mulch, great. We still haven't had a meeting with them. So I would ask the chair to make an agenda and have the DPW come and sit and tell us what they're responsible for and what they're not responsible for. And quite frankly, I'm sick of the runaround. We've been polite about this. We've asked to talk to them, to sit down and bring it to our meeting. They haven't done it. I had said if we're not gonna do this publicly, but I'm doing this now publicly. And I would ask us as a committee, if we can't put it on the agenda, maybe we would write a letter to the town manager on our displeasure on the way these buildings are being, on the outside of being serviced, because it's not to Cohasset standards. I've said it on and on and on, and I'm really getting tired of it. You know, I want to commend our janitors, because our inside of the buildings are looking a lot better. But if they're not going to take care of the leaves on the inside, and they're not going to take all the masks, like you can't walk around the building and take care of it, then we'll ask our janitors to do it and we'll pay them extra money, but we're not going to deal with this anymore. So I would love to get our committee to just put some teeth behind our subcommittee meetings. And I would ask our chair to put that on the agenda.
Yeah, I can work with Ms. Owen to make sure we have a DPW representative at the facilities meeting.
Well, we've asked, so.
I know.
This is a fourth ask.
I know. Yeah, we'll have to talk tomorrow.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kearney. Ms. St. Ange?
I don't have any questions right
Okay, thank you, Ms. St. Ange. Thank you, Ms. Owen. Appreciate the update. Did that conclude finance
now.
update?
Yes, it does, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Move on to the school committee section, which starts out with the school facilities committee update. The update is related to the last update. As you may recall, for those of you that were present, we took a vote on the statement of interest to the Massachusetts School Building Authority to authorize our superintendent to submit an SOI on behalf of Cohasset Schools. That motion did pass. However, it needs to be approved by the select board as well. And the select board did approve that last night at the meeting by unanimous vote. They took the vote in a different, by way of a different procedure. And so I think that the instructions from the MSBA are a bit ambiguous, and I did not interpret them the same way as obviously the select board did. However, perhaps more is more, and in the interest of uniformity and not being the only body that perhaps didn't go the distance that is required, I just want to have another vote. And the only difference is that there is a prescribed format, and it seems fairly cumbersome to me, which is why it seemed more of a form that you submit with the certification the vote was taken and approved. But the select board read this into the record as the motion that's voted on. So I'll just do that and we can vote on it again, just out of an abundance of caution here, because it is sort of a prerequisite to having an SOI accepted and considered. Okay, so I'll move right on this again. I'm just reading from the what's called the form of vote from the MSBA's resources online. The motion would be that the Cohasset School Committee, having convened in an open meeting on April 27, 2022, prior to the statement of interest submission closing date, the school committee of Cohasset, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent of schools, Dr. Patrick Sullivan, to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority the statement of interest form dated April 27th or 28th, depending on when we submit it, 2022, for the Cohasset Middle and High School at 143 Pond Street in Cohasset, Massachusetts, which describes and explains the following deficiencies and the priority categories for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. And those priorities, as we are applying or submitting our SOI for Cohasset Public Schools, are one, the elimination of existing severe overcrowding; two, the placement, renovation, or modernization of school facility systems such as roofs, windows, boilers, heating and ventilation systems to increase energy conservation and decrease energy-related costs in a school facility; three, replacement of or addition to obsolete buildings in order to provide for a full range of programs consistent with state and approved local requirements. So having made that motion in the format prescribed by the MSBA, if that is required, I might ask for a second to that motion and then a vote.
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Mr. Dial. Vote in roll call, Mr. Kearney,
Aye.
Mr. Dial,
Aye.
Mrs. St. Ange,
Aye.
aye, Craig McClellan. So that motion unanimously passes. So Dr. Sullivan, we can, officially submit
Yes.
that language with the vote.
One
Yes,
non-present. Right?
excuse me?
Vote of quorum.
One non-present.
You were quorum.
That's right. We have a quorum. So unanimously from the members that are here, one member is not present.
great.
So it's a pass vote of 4 to
Thank
one
you for
member
doing that.
absent.
Just gives us a full.
So we will need to submit a certification on district letterhead
Mhm.
signed by myself
Mhm.
that attests to the fact that we just took that vote with that specific language. Just in the
Can you
case.
come by
that it's
tomorrow
required.
and do that?
And we need to submit it by the end of the month. So we're on track. Everything's good. We will be in good shape, but we want to do that out of an abundance of caution, even though we voted last time. So thanks, everyone. Sorry to belabor that issue, but Kerry Thompson runs a pretty tight ship over at the select board and Corey Evans, and they made me nervous that we weren't being diligent enough. So thank you guys for that. Moving on to the reports of subcommittees. Any subcommittee reports? Mr. Dial.
We normally meet yesterday, but we did not meet yesterday, did we? As a subcommittee.
Once Tuesday, once a month.
Was it once a month? Okay, yes, so then we
But
have
it
not
ends up
met.
being before
We shouldn't
the
have.
first school committee meeting
That's it.
instead of finance. So I look at it, the first school committee is the special ed report and the second school committee is always the finance report, but we meet for the first one.
Yes,
So
that's
we will
correct.
be
Since
meeting
it's not one of those, we have no update.
So we'll have another meeting.
We'll have it before the next school committee meeting.
Okay, all right.
Yep, that's good. So. No,
Thank
update,
you, Mr. Dial.
as long as no update ever.
Mr. Kearney.
Let's see. No, good vacation. Glad everybody's back. Thank you, Ms. Owen, for getting the information boards up. I think that's big and I appreciate that. Also looking forward to all the other projects that we have going. So that's pretty much the update there.
Thank you, Mr. Kearney. I also noticed that I drove by the school the other day at night and the stairs to the parking lot were very well illuminated.
Okay.
So,
Kearney lights.
thank you for that. Hey, laugh we will, and it is a little tongue in cheek. However, Mr. Kearney has made a lot of visible changes, whether big or small, and that is important. There are things like water dispensers and TV screens and lights to the stairwell, and it just shows the amount of love that Mr. Kearney pours into his role. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. St. Ange, any updates?
Just that both policy and communications subcommittees will be meeting next week. Is that what we agreed upon, I think? I'll double check. with you, but, we'll be meeting next week. We'll have an update.
Okay, thank you, Ms. St. Ange. I don't have any specific updates beyond what we just did with the school facilities committee. So we will move into the next section of the agenda unless anyone has anything else to add, which is the approval of minutes. I do not think we have any minutes on the slate to approve, but from speaking to our secretary, Ms. St. Ange, we will in the near future. Again, we all have full-time jobs here and, it's not easy. So Mrs. St. Ange is doing the best she can, and all of these meetings are recorded. So, if there's any problems, understanding that we still have responsibility to approve minutes, and we shall. But, if there's any questions as to the content of the meeting, you have something that's even better than a minute, which is
Right on class
the
of
exact,
class
the
last
actual full meeting that you can relive in all its glory. So move on to topics not reasonably anticipated. The chairman within 48 hours in advance of the meeting. I do not have any that I know of.
Can I make one observation though?
You may.
This, I think, marks the very first time we've ever gotten to topics not reasonably anticipated on the time indicated on the
It's
agenda.
exactly
Seven
7:10.
ten.
Wow.
It's
Well
actually
done.
a minute early.
Yeah,
That may be the first time
And
that
we
I've
made a
ever seen
motion
it.
tonight, so
And,
all sorts of things happening.
That's true. That was an atypical situation because I was so nervous about how the select board.
You
did that.
guys
I
gonna
wanted
stop
to
raining
pick it
actually
again.
next.
I know. Cats are gonna start chasing dogs. Things are gonna get weird. All right, so we'll move on to the next section, which is the executive session. There is a reason to move in executive session. We will be moving it, or I would entertain a motion to move in executive session for reason number 2, which is strategy related to bargaining with non-union and union personnel. Is there a motion to move into executive session for that reason stated? Motion's been made by Mr. Kearney. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Dial. All in favor, aye. All opposed? Okay, so the motion passes. And we are now moving into executive session. For those of you that are watching at home, there is no substantive content left, and we'll probably be adjourning offline. So you won't miss anything, and you can log off now. Thank you so much for participating, and look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you very much, everyone.